Hey guys, it's Corbett Lunsford from the Building Performance Workshop. In my last video, I showed how I explain the topic of home performance to civilians, and in this one, I'm going to show how I explain it to building professionals. For both of these topics, if you really want to get your game down pat, come to my mastermind training. It's an online training, it's all on demand. We all take it at the same time every fall. So that's at homeperformance.training. Now in the meantime, what we were about to see is my presentation that I gave 5 times at the International Builders Show this year in 2018, and I was actually on the trade show floor. So what's really interesting about this is that you get to see whether your story catches people or not, because you're literally telling the story while people are walking by saying, I'm not really interested. Wait, what did he just say? So this is a good gauge, and I highly recommend that all of you do this at some point in your career to figure out whether you're actually hitting the mark or not. So this is me at the Broan-Nutone booth, and I hope that you enjoy the next 20 minutes or so. There's plenty of chairs over here, and I promise to tell an entertaining story. I'm presenting at Broan-Nutone, but I do not work for Broan-Nutone. I'm an independent expert on tuned home performance and on home performance testing. So how to find out whether a home actually works or not. Sadly, a lot of homes don't actually work, and that goes for new homes and older homes. So what we're here to talk about today is the lens of the tiny lab, which is my home. It's the world's highest performance tiny house on wheels. We toured this house 13,000 miles in 2016 to 34 cities. Broan-Nutone was one of the product partners that helped us build this house that works perfectly in every climate zone we took it to. We had 7,000 people coming in and out of this house. We try to teach normal Americans, your clients, how home performance works and why they would want to ask for it. And by the way, the answer is not energy efficiency. So this is the most scientifically superior house of any size in all of America. Am I a genius builder? No, I am an idiot. In fact, I've only been doing this for 10 years. I've been in the construction industry for 10 years. I used to play piano for a living for ballerinas. I'd like to give you a superpower of being a new guy in this industry. Please raise your right hand. Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. Sometimes. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. It's okay. We're all learning things all the time. You cannot know everything about the world. One of the things that I was able to do with this house was achieve perfection with the air quality, the moisture, the heat bleed, the airflows and pressures, because I'm an idiot and I know for a fact I'm not going to do everything right and I'm going to make mistakes. Did I make mistakes building this house? You want to guess? Yes. How often did I make mistakes? Every day. Great. How often do builders who have built 1,000 houses make mistakes? Every day is the correct answer. Any builder here who says that horrible mistakes don't happen on a build site every single day is either naive because they don't know that the mistakes are happening. That's when somebody like me gets called in later and finds them for you. Or they're honest and they're like, yeah, stuff happens. Build sites are very dirty and messy places. That's what happens. But you can find the mistakes and you can actually do a good job with them. Now, I'm able to say that this is the most scientifically superior house in all of America because I have all the stats. Stats win. We're in the information age. Now, Google is in a position of power because they have so much data. I'm in a position of power with this house because I can stand up and say this house is better than all other houses, and no one can argue with me because it's not a matter of opinion. I have actual data. I have a ton of data points, and some of the data points are these two. These are both required by law in all 50 states in the country in the next couple years. Blower door testing and duct tightness testing. These are not special. Everyone has to get these. And you should be getting these because they're very important. But I don't stop there for myself and my wife and my baby and my 2 cats who traveled the country living in this thing every single night, over 13,000 miles. And by the way, does anybody know what happens to a house when you tow it on the highway at 55 miles an hour every week? Yeah, it shakes and it gets blown on. So that's an earthquake and a hurricane at the same time on a weekly basis. So my house is the most tortured house in the entire country, and it still is way more airtight than most of the houses that have ever been built by anybody at this show. That should be kind of sad and weird because I'm an idiot and I'm not a home builder. This was the first thing I ever built. So we also went to find out what the pressures were. And I didn't even stop there. I also got all the rest of this information because I was nervous that I was going to poison my 6-week-old baby girl, or have my wife be uncomfortable and divorce me after a year on the road, or have my cats smell up the house, because if I have 2 cats, what else do I have?
Dander.
A litter box, thank you.
Oh.
My house is 210 square feet. I have 2 cats and a litter box. I have a baby, so I have a bunch of poopy diapers. And I have a composting toilet. And if you know what all of that is about, it's all about poop. And you can't smell it in my house. Number one, because we designed it so that you could never smell anything bad in my house. We had 7,000 people through the house, and the beautiful Broan ventilation system always kept the house equalized pressure-wise, and with the stale air leaving where we wanted it to leave, and the fresh air coming in and pressurizing and pushing fresh air up through the house all the time. So people would come into the house and we'd say, what do you smell? And they would say, it smells clean and beautiful in here. I love it. And it's because we change out the air in my house. Does anybody want to guess how many times a day? 24 times a day. I change out all of the air in my house every hour because it's a very, very small space. There's also a bunch of other things that I have to do to the house because it's so small. Anybody who's building retirement communities or apartment buildings or small houses, small-ish, not tiny necessarily, but something that's less than 1,000 square feet, you need to worry about the same things that we worried about. Now, everybody say, the home is a system. Repeat after me, my home is a system. Great, say that to yourself on a regular basis. You want to brainwash yourself to think this way because everyone else in the industry is trying to brainwash you the other way. They want us to think that you could go to a big box store and buy something even as beautiful as a nice Broan fan and plug it into your house and it'll fix everything. Not true. And anybody at Broan who's a technical expert, and they have lots of them, and you should come back and talk to them about this stuff, knows the home is a system, and that if you take one of these nice pieces of equipment, you put it in the house without doing anything else, it's not going to fix everything, and in fact, you're going to be mad at Broan because you're going to think their fan doesn't work. That's not the way homes work. Americans understand that vehicles are systems. This truck that I towed my house 13,000 miles around the country with, I love that truck, by the way. It is a system, and all Americans understand this. You would not let your mother go into a mechanic and say, my engine is making funny noises. Please replace my engine. Right? You would expect them to do diagnostics. You would not let your mother walk herself into a doctor's office and say, my stomach really hurts. Please remove my appendix. And yet, right now, in your neighborhood, in your clients' homes, in your family, someone is on the phone with someone who sells something specific, windows, insulation, HVAC equipment, and saying, hey, I have this symptom in my house. Will you please perform surgery on my house? That's totally ridiculous. And everyone is going to know within the next couple of years that that does not work. That's why we need to have this conversation. That's why Broan is bringing me in to have this conversation with everybody. So, this is some of my diagnostic equipment. I'm not just a speaker, I'm an expert in diagnostics. I test people's houses for a living. I work entirely in the private market. I don't work with energy efficiency programs. And I could tell you what technical names we have in this equipment. I can tell you what this stuff does, what it measures, how much it costs, how much training I have. None of that stuff matters to you. What is important at this show is this. If you want to prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that one house is scientifically better, and therefore the people who built that house are scientifically better than the next guy, and that includes all builders. And by the way, if you're building a house in 60 days, it's really hard to keep track of all the things that could possibly go wrong. So any of the custom builders in the room, take this as a note that there is a way to get past the production builder monopoly on so many things. Because you have to prove what you're doing in the future of home building. Now, this is my home. I have a ventilation system that is proven. I have an enclosure that is proven. I myself did most of the work in here, and we've got tons of videos that show that it's not just enough to install something that's a very nice product that was made and designed and engineered perfectly. You have to actually put it in as a system. So the way to think about this is 4, 3, 2, 1. I've got a kind of a system of thinking about home performance that this house is the physical embodiment of. That's all my house is basically me thinking about trying to control these 4 elements, make these 3 recommendations on my 2 systems, and getting the one goal. So let's think about this real quick. The 4 elements that everybody's going to think of as home performance in the future, and that we should be thinking of right now, start with heat flow. All Americans generally understand that heat bleeds into their house in the summertime and bleeds out of their house in the wintertime. That's why they want more insulation, replacing all their windows, and an upgraded HVAC system. Those things are generally a waste of money for most people. If you do it as part of a system of thinking, and you make sure that if you're going to install something like an ERV, that you have an enclosure that is going to be appropriately tuned to work with that ERV, or if you have bath fans, making sure that they're in the right location in the bathroom, etc., etc. There's all these kind of things that you need to think about, that a product is not just a product. You need to also install it, and it's half the battle. So, people know about heat flow, they don't really get how it works, but that's okay, we can teach them later. Airflow and pressure. What trade is supposed to be the expert in airflow and pressure on a build team? HVAC. We have an expert in the room. Can you tell us whether most HVAC professionals are given the training and the equipment to test anything about the home as a system? No, and he very clearly, no. That is a very clear answer. Yes, that is true. Most HVAC professionals are run ragged, just trying to do change-outs on boxes, and they're given very clear instructions to not waste a bunch of time thinking about how to fix the whole home. We need to change this because the HVAC guys are going to start getting the short end of the stick very soon. They take a lot of the blame. Next on the list is moisture, and we are going to kill the house with moisture, or I'm going to make my wife's nose bleed. And either of those things is bad. If it's too dry, it's bad. If it's too wet, it's bad. So we need to be able to manage this. And also air quality. Now this list is going up in increasing importance. Number one thing on the list is air quality. If a home is super energy efficient, but it smells bad, who wants to live there? No one. If a house has an indoor pool, who wants to live there? Awesome, I do, right? It's not about energy efficiency. I would not call myself an energy efficiency expert because, first of all, no one cares. None of my clients cares about energy efficiency. They might say that they do as a side effect, which is fine. We can deliver energy efficiency, and one of the wonderful things about a lot of these products is that they are energy efficient. But the better thing about these products is that they give us the ability to control air quality and moisture and airflow and pressure and heat bleed. All of those things are what we need to care about. Now the energy codes are changing, and the energy codes only deal with energy efficiency. So if you are letting the energy codes govern your build, you will be creating air quality and moisture problems. You will. Somebody like me only has to sit and wait for people to pick up the phone and find me and call me, because there will be way more problems as we go down the road as we're building more airtight, more insulated, and with an HVAC system that's supposed to be tuned, and maybe it's tuned or maybe it's not, with all the spray foam and the air tightness measures and everything that we're doing to houses. So the three recommendations to make on any home, new or old, is number one, air sealing. Everything about my house that is awesome starts with the air tightness layer. Nothing about my house would work if I did not have this air sealing in place. Now you can see here that I have an inboard air tightness layer. I have a house wrap inside my walls. I also have one outside, and redundancy is very important. You don't want to be too redundant and just waste a bunch of money on stuff, but it's a good idea to make sure that you have planes in place that will stop air from leaking into cavities or out of cavities that you don't want. Air sealing before insulation. Insulation is like air sealing, cheap, only needs to be done one time, doesn't draw any energy. Love it. If it's done right. And then after those two things are done, then and only then we can jump to what most Americans will jump to first, which is HVAC upgrades. If my house smells, it feels funny, it's too hot, too cold, I'm going to call the HVAC guy. HVAC guy has only been trained in HVAC and generally only in the box. They will look at the box and say, yeah, I think I can do something for you with this box, which has nothing to do with most of the problems that people are having, which have to do with air sealing and insulation. That's why we got to look at this home as a system thing. Now, there are only two systems that are battling it out in this performance game. The first one is the skin of your house, that's the enclosure, the air sealing and insulation layer. The second thing is the circulatory system of the house, that's the engines, anything that moves heat or air within the house, and that includes everything in this booth. All of the airflow management devices, the exhaust fans, the supply fans, the filters, etc. All of that stuff is participating in this game. Now, both of them have to be tuned. You have to have something like, for example, a duct design. If you're going to, install one of these fans, you want to make sure that you do an equivalent duct length calculation so that you can know what diameter of duct you need to install for it. And also, you need to make sure that the two systems are tuned to each other. So the enclosure and the engines are tuned together. When you get that, you get the goal. My goal when I built the Tiny Lab was not energy efficiency. I think you already know that. It was also not sustainability, and it's not green, and it's not even comfort, which is the main thing that a lot of marketing departments are trying to push right now. But if you sit, my wife and I, two people who live in the same house in the same family, down at a table, and you ask us what our ideal temperature is, will we give you the same number? No, we will not. So you're not going to make both of us more comfortable. You're going to make her more comfortable because she's more important. And then if she leaves town, maybe I'll set the thermostat to my number. And I get that. So really what we're delivering to people is this. If you can give your clients control over their environment and prediction so that they know what's going to happen next week, next year, in 10 years, how much carbon monoxide would you like your babies to be breathing in 5 years? How much formaldehyde? How cold would you like it to be in the basement in the wintertime? How hot would you like it to be in the top floor in the summertime versus the bottom floor? You can predict all of this stuff, and you can actually start guaranteeing your work for a very long time In fact, Toyota builds modular homes in Japan, and they give a 60-year warranty for things like this. And they know for a fact they're not going to have to fulfill it because they do checklists and testing. They know exactly what's going on with their houses when they leave the factory. So I built a tiny house on wheels, 210 square feet, in southern Florida. I drove it all over the country. We ended up in Death Valley, and it felt the same. It was the same temperature and relative humidity in every single place that we went to. Because we had things like an ERV. We had makeup air dampers installed under the kitchen hood. We had some filtration, but not too much filtration. We had insulation, the right amount, not too much, not too little. We had air sealing, supreme. So this is how you prove it. If anybody at the show says they're building high performance or green or energy efficient, but they're not testing, I'm sorry, but you just don't know. I guarantee it. I test for lots and lots of builders who say that they're doing all this stuff, and then I come onto the scene and I test some little extra things that nobody has tested before, and we find out, whoa, it's a house of cards. So what you really want to do is be able to predict what you're going to get calls back on, and what you're going to get maybe sued about down the line, because this storm is coming. We are building more high performance as we go, whether we like it or not. We're not here to talk about whether we're building high performance or not. Energy codes are in place. People are requesting spray foam. You are installing things like ERVs. You are installing bath fans that work better, that are going to suck on the house harder, et cetera, right? So we're in this whether we like it or not. This book is right up here. And by the way, I've got two things for you here. You can go ahead and pass this book around. This is the compendium of all tests that you would ever want to run in a home. And you can buy it at the show. I sell it online. Or if you don't have the money for it, you can read it for free, which is probably stupid of me business-wise, but I don't care. What I want to do is tell everybody that there is no excuse for not knowing how to test anymore, because you can read my book for free on the website. Also, there are a bunch of videos that I'll put you to at the end of the session. But if you also want one of these magazines at the end of the session, please feel free to grab one of those. Now, this is some of my test data. As you can see right here, first of all, I've got the Broan APE 130. You don't have to know what that is, but basically it's a nice square-edged exhaust hood over the stove, which is a gas stove. And then I have the makeup air unit right underneath this. So basically the whole, you can see the damper that they've got over here, this mechanical damper that opens up. This is why this is so important. This is my blower door test data while I was at Ruffin. You can see my rain screen here. I got to 50 pascals, which is what you get every blower door test to in residential. When we were at 50 pascals, we had 47.1 CFM of leakage. You don't have to know technically what all this is about, but I want you to know what it means. It means if I was to install a very nice, off-the-shelf 50 CFM bath fan in my bathroom, which is right up here, and run it every time I used the bathroom or took a shower, I would be doing a blower door test on my house. That is the blower door test number. That is the worst thing I could possibly do to this house. And if you are building small, if you're building retirement communities, if you're building apartment buildings, etc., you need to pay attention to this, because if you're building really airtight, small little space, you turn on a fan, 50 CFM fan will induce 50 pascals of back pressure. That means I will develop mold in my walls. I will get sued for it later, period. And my wife will get sick and my kids will get sick. So aside from all the legal stuff, it's like, do I build good or not? And I want to know exactly what these things are doing to my house. This number right here is the air changes per hour. This is how you grade it in code, is air changes per hour. Now, 3 air changes per hour is the tightest that any builder in America is ever going to be required to build by code. I beat it by double. First time out, hi, I'm Corbett, I'm an idiot. I've never built a house before. Any builder can do better than this. So don't let anybody tell you that it's too expensive. What really you're paying for in the extra air sealing is all of the complaining that the trades guys are doing, because they're doing something that they didn't have to do on any other house before. Once they've done their second or third house for you like this, there is no more complaining, there's no more expense. It actually is a really nice process. I used tapes and membranes on my house because any spray foam in my house would have cracked, because I exposed my house to an earthquake and a hurricane on a regular basis. So the membranes and tapes are nice because I ended up stroking my house. I take the backing off the tape and I stroke the house, and I'm massaging and rubbing, and it's like a very beautiful Zen process. I loved it. This last number right here is passive house airtightness. Again, first time home builder. Never tried this before. Passive house airtight. Passive house is the most strict building standard in the world. This is not rocket science. If I can do this, anyone at the show can do it better. Now, there are 5 simple tests that you can make sure that the air quality in your homes that you're building or that you're participating in is supreme. First of all, blower door test. You have to. But there's another thing that you can do. You can do extra stuff. While you got the blower door test running, there are things like zonal pressure testing, which almost no one does, and I can find out whether a house that was just built, that even is Energy Star certified, is potentially a danger for a little family that's living in it when the dad pulls in on a Friday night and he's driving his hybrid and he turns his car into park, but he doesn't turn it off because it's been a long week and he's tired, goes inside, car's still running, but silently because it's on battery, eats dinner, they all go upstairs, go to bed, battery runs down, car turns on, house fills up with carbon monoxide, no one wakes up in the morning. That's not a made-up story. That actually will be happening in homes in every state of the country, because there needs to be air tightness layers in places, and people are doing crazier things with their houses, and they are less smart about homes in general than they used to be 50 years ago, right? We used to like open a window when you turned on the exhaust fan in the kitchen, but now people don't know to do stuff like that. They used to know to like open the flue in the fireplace, and now we get calls like, hey, my house is smelling with smoke, I don't know why. There's a flue in there, and you gotta turn up the damper. So the blow order test will give you the ability to do all kinds of things within that test that are very valuable, aside from just the code compliance. Duct tightness test, not just when it's required by code. Code requires in every single state, within the next couple years at least, that you test duct tightness in all places where the ducts are outside the enclosure or not totally contained inside the enclosure. The reason that this is really important is because I'm not caring about energy efficiency. I installed my duct system and I designed it to deliver a certain number of CFM and BTUs to each and every room. I want my bedroom that's at the end of the run to get cooled off in the summertime. If all of the air is leaking off inside the basement, that doesn't actually help my bedroom situation, right? Yes, it's energy efficient. I'm not losing the energy to outside, but it has nothing to do with the actual control, which is what we're really after. So you should be doing duct sealing and you should be doing duct tightness tests in all scenarios to make sure that the plumbing for air is not leaking all over the place. Infrared thermal scan. This is how you make sure that your air sealing and your insulation is actually installed properly, because if you don't have insulation installed properly everywhere, and we're talking about perfectly, 99% perfect insulation actually performs 70% as well as 100% perfect insulation. It's because heat flow is not linear. We can get into a math lesson later, but you just need to know that insulation needs to be done 100% perfectly or it's not going to work, I guarantee it. If that happens, you will have condensation when temperatures get extreme, and temperatures are getting extreme pretty much everywhere, right? We've got global weirding going on and everybody's experiencing record temperatures on the high and the low end. And by the way, these are all easy. Required by law. This test, all the extra equipment that you need for zonal pressure testing is included in this kit. So whoever has a blow order test already has the ability to do zonal pressure testing. These you can get for as low as $200 on Amazon. No excuse not to have one in your pocket at all times. Home device depressurization test. We're talking about turning on all of the very nice Broan exhaust fans that you've got in your house. Your ERV, that in my case moves 70 CFM on the high end, and it moves right now about 35 because I've dampered it down and put it on the low setting in my tiny lab. And the kitchen exhaust to it, and. So you turn on everything and you see what the house does. And it's possible that you could run a blow order test in a house. I actually had a billionaire client, and if you want to piss off a homeowner who will never go away, do it to a billionaire, who had 4 wood-burning fireplaces that he liked to burn. Anyone want to guess? He's a billionaire. Every night, all 4 burning for several hours at a time. Every day from 1 to 5, a professional chef comes in and prepares meals for that night and for the next day and runs that giant 1000 CFM hood on high because he's a professional chef. And they've got several dryers in the house, all of which run all day long because the maids are like cleaning all the linens all the time, right? And this poor HVAC guy went in and did what he always does, which is install beautiful top of the line equipment. He's got 2 ERVs in the house. None of the stuff worked at all because the HVAC guy did not understand what the enclosure was doing. The whole house was not tuned. The enclosure was great, HVAC system was great, but they did not match up to each other. Last thing is exhaust fan flow test. Just because you have a beautiful piece of equipment, and what I'm, by the way, red flag telling normal Americans, is if you walk into a brand new house and you see a piece of equipment that has the name Broan on it, it means it's a pretty nice piece of equipment, for example, and you turn on that switch and you hear anything, it's probably ducted wrong, because these things are designed to be perfectly quiet now. So if somebody walks into your house, turns on the fan, and they hear a sound, they're like, nope, I just saw behind the walls and I know for a fact that people weren't paying attention to every single detail in this house. Now I'm going to hire somebody like Corbett to come in and test everything about the house and find out all the things that are wrong so that then I can ask for money off when I buy it, or just totally abandon the process at all. Now, we are not here to talk about energy efficiency. Obviously, there are 3 scenarios when you can use testing that has nothing to do with energy. Number 1, you have a problem in a house, whether it's a new or an old house, and you want to make sure that you found the actual source of the problem and that you can target a number to fix it. So then you test before you fix the problem and you have a target, then you test, and if you hit the target, you know for a fact you solved the problem. Next in line is if your client has a little sack of money and they want to start improving their house, you want to make sure that they have taken advantage of every single opportunity for improvement. That means more work for you guys, 1 visit, not a bunch of stuff over the years, and you have guaranteed that you fixed all their problems at once. You can use testing to make sure that that happens. And lastly, if somebody's going to be building or buying a home and they want to make sure they did not get a lemon, testing will absolutely prove that. Now, people, your clients, normal Americans, consumers, will be finding out about this stuff. They will be learning about it from me on PBS in a year from now. So I hope when we come back in a year from now, you will be coming back and saying, oh, I loved episode 1, blah, blah, blah. We're trying to get this conversation started with normal people so that then you all don't have to sell this to them. We want them to be coming to you begging for this stuff. And by the way, will consumers pay more for something that's better? Yes. You're not in the construction industry, right? What do you pay more for that's better all the time?
Camera gear.
Camera, groceries, cars, clothing, etc. Right? We think in the construction industry that people are always looking for the bottom line. They don't. They buy on emotion. If you can give them something that is provably better and demonstrate the benefits of it, like, for example, I can guarantee you I'm not going to poison your children. You don't have to say that anymore. I'm going to be on TV saying that for you. So now they can come to you and say, hey, can you build me one of those houses that will guarantee not to poison my kids? Bam! Now it's like, oh yeah, absolutely. And here's how we guarantee that. We could do all these different tests to make sure that we've monitored this, and then we install a monitoring system where we have a maintenance agreement where for 30 years I will visit your house 4 times a year and I will make sure that the roof isn't leaking, that your air quality is proper, I'm going to make sure that I change your filters, I'm going to clean your blah blah blah. All this stuff is then going to make this industry actually better. And the people who are smart and do better work will make more money and will be more popular than the people who are low bidders. There will always be low bidders, and that's fine. We can let them deal with the people who are cheapskates. So that's where you can see the sizzle reel for the television show. We've got a lot of sponsors coming on board. Broan, I hope, will be joining the team. We've got Fantech, 475 High Performance Building Supply, and TrueTech Tools on board. This is my YouTube channel where you can find out all kinds of stuff about how to do these tests, how to explain them to your clients, how they work, what they mean. That's called Home Performance. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope to be able to answer all your questions. I will stick around for as long as the questions will demand. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day, and good luck with the rest of your show. I also presented at Fantech, and Fantech is a sponsor of Home Diagnosis, the first TV show that brings building science and home performance into mainstream television. I hope that you will let other potential sponsors know, but we have 11 sponsors on board so far, and the list is growing. Stay tuned for that. You can see the sizzle reel at homediagnosis.tv. Also, subscribe to this channel, participate, stay involved, comment. See you next time.